Alright, so we're still in Galatians. Actually, we're going to be the same exact passage as we were last week. Looking at kind of the last couple of verses of chapter 2 and then the first 14 verses of chapter 3. So if you want to turn there, you can. As we're handing in some... Wow, that's done already. Yep. Good night. You guys are getting efficient. You're well trained. You are very well. It's the last couple of verses of chapter 2 of Galatians and the first 14 verses of chapter 3. That's kind of where we're at. So, but we're going to begin by doing a little. I'm going to have you repeat after me, all right? Because this is the crux of the whole thing. And so I'm just going to have you say verse 20, all right, after me, all right, according to the ESV that I have. So I'll try not to give you too many words. It's like taking your vows. All right, here we go. I have been crucified with Christ.
I have been crucified with Christ.
It is no longer I who live.
It is no longer I who live,
but Christ who lives in me.
but Christ who lives in me.
And the life I now live in the flesh.
And the life I now live in the flesh.
Well done. I live by faith.
I live by faith
In the Son of God.
in the Son of God,
Who loved me.
who loved me
And gave himself for me.
and gave himself for me.
Praise the Lord. That's what it's all about. That's what we're trying to figure out. That's the heart. We started the entire series of Galatians there, and then we jump back to the beginning of the book, and we're working our way through. But this is it. This is the whole thing that we're trying to understand. What does that mean? What does it mean that the life we now live, we live by faith? And so last Sunday we talked about what is faith. Hebrews chapter 11, verses 1 in the beginning tells us that faith is, somebody knows this, faith is, help me out, sure of what I hope for, and certain of what? I cannot see. All right, so faith is something that we possess, right? It's a noun. Faith is something that we have, right? In fact, it's a gift. It's something that God gives to us, right? It's not something that we even necessarily, try to kind of boil up in ourselves. It's something that we possess. It's something that we have. It's a belief in who God is and what He's done. We hear the gospel. We believe it. I have faith in it. It's a noun. And we talked about, well, what does that have to do with trust, right? And trust is a verb, right? And so trust is the enacting of the noun faith, right? And so we used, remember last week, those of you here, we had a little tightrope thing. We had a little board, and all right, got to hang in. So now what we want to do is we want to keep moving with that whole concept. So as you look at that passage that's in front of you, if you look at those verses, you'll see that Paul sets the expectation, sets the principle that we just quoted, that we just said together, and then he follows it up in the beginning of chapter 3 by using Abraham as an example, and we kind of talked a little bit about that. And so we want to do the same thing. We want to follow that pattern. So we're actually going to talk about a few people to try to figure out. Last week it's what is faith. This week is how do we live by faith. Right? So he believed the voice, but then he enacted that, and he joined the journey. He got off his canister and went and did something, right? So he got on the trail. He got going, right? And he joined the journey. But what he had to do in order to do that is pretty incredible. He had to leave behind everything that was familiar to him without any assurance of what he was headed to. He had to leave behind everything that was comfortable, everything that he knew, Everything that was normal, his routine, his family, his like you get up and I do this and I do this and these are my people and this is where I've been and I'm generational and I've been here forever. My family's been here forever. This is like I've got a trade. Blah blah blah. He left all of that behind in order to join the journey. So in order to grab something new, he had to let go of what was old, and so he could embrace something new. Now this is a challenge for us, right? Because that's not easy. But if we're going to live by faith, then we have to enact our faith, what we possess, and we got to do something with it. And sometimes that means, it doesn't always mean, just because that's what God called Abraham, I'm not saying that's what he's going to call you to do, but it may mean we have to leave behind what is familiar. We have to leave behind what is comfortable, and we have to trust that what God is leading us to is going to be it. So he joins the journey, but then he's got a long way. Like, it was long. Like they traveled north up through what's called the Fertile Crescent, through the Mesopotamian Valley, and they come to a place called Haran. All right, now Abraham wasn't traveling alone. He had Sarah, Lot, and Terah, his father-in-law, or father. And so they go to Haran, right? And not everybody decides to continue. Like Terah says, I'm good here. And guess what happened to Terah? He died. Guess what Terah didn't get to do? Experience the promised land. Experience the rest of the journey. He got settled in. So that's why the second thing is important. You got to stay the course. Like, keep going. Like, the trophy doesn't go to who's winning at halftime. It doesn't matter what the score is in the 7th inning. It's the end of the 9th inning or extra innings if needed. Right? You've got to stay the course. Abraham, Lot, and Sarah stayed the course. Terah said, I'm good. And his good was a settling for what was best.